Hi everyone, welcome to Itsy Bitsy's live read of Broken Angel by Dante St. John. Prologue, Ivy. Was it that it felt like, was this what it felt like to finally die? Too many sounds, too much light, too many sensations. I clenched my eyes shut, hands collapsed over my ears as I sat against the crumbling wall of the cemetery I landed in a few hours prior. Stones that had dislodged from my mortar and had fallen to the ground dug into my bare skin, leaving small, bloody marks. Somewhere nearby, a bird cawed, the sound shooting painfully through my head. A bolt of lightning cracked out from my body. The smell of charred meat wafted towards me on the breeze as black feathers floated to the ground. Only a few hours ago, I'd escaped captivity, trapped inside another person's body for the last 20 years. I'd had a, I'd had a nearly complete sensory blackout. No skin to feel, no ears to hear, no eyes to see, drifting in and out of awareness while I floated in the never ending dark. I'd been possessing someone, which shouldn't have happened since she was still alive when it happened, and demons couldn't take over a living host. Her life may have been the thing that kept me trapped. The poor girl hadn't even known what was happening. Andromeda, her name flashed through my mind. We were free of each other now. Something had pulled me to the surface, just long enough to claw my way out of my prison. I'd come ag- I'd come alive again in the fury of storm and smoke. I hoped she was strong enough to survive everything she'd been through, what my father had done to her, what I had done to her. Gods, everything hurts so badly. In all my life, I've never felt so much pain when my body reformed. I lost count of the number of times I've had to rebuild myself. It's another thing that set me apart from other demons. I didn't need a host body. I just lived. 3 days. It never took more than 3 days for my body to reform after death. But that might have changed. I wouldn't have survived this time around. I couldn't control my power. Lightning crackled around me like a living aura. My body shifted painfully through the spectrum of my demotic forms. Black eyes turned white, then bright blue, then black again. The marks around my eyes bled into my pale skin, turning it dark, then fading, only to start all over again. Claws and horns flickered in and out, in and out. No gradual slide like they should have had. Just there and gone, and back again. Pain lanced through my body with every tiny shift. Tears. Gods, I couldn't remember the last time I've cried. Ran in steady streams down my cheeks, dripping onto the ground, mixing with blood that fell from my nose. Blue, white, sparks of electricity fell from with the tears. Singly, the dry leaves scattered around me. I let the pain take me. Rage and fear and agony filled my voice as I screamed into the night. Lightning cracked across the sky in a massive web, glowing brighter than the sun for a fraction of a second. My screams echoed across the cemetery, and I knew I was dying. Alone, in a world I hardly understood, without my wife. Emma. Gods, where was my wife? The thought of Emma's sweet smile and gentle touch brought a sense of calm with it, allowing me to focus on more important things. I needed to find my wife. I didn't even know if she was still alive. But, much like me, my angel was immortal in a way that most creatures could never dream of. If she was in this world, I'd find her. She be waiting for me. Slowly, it could have been hours or days, my body calmed and settled into one form. Claws and horns finally stopped flickering in and out of existence. Lightning gradually dissipated and my eyes stopped glowing. The world was so much darker without that light. I sat there, with my back against the crumbling stone wall of a cemetery in a world I was unfamiliar with, struggling to catch my breath. Air burned like acid in lungs that hadn't needed to function in 2 decades. Muscles twitched in spasm like I was being slowly electrocuted. Eternity passed while I sat. There was still so much pain, so many voices crashing through my skull. Too bright light from the slowly rising sun was like spikes in my eyes. I debated clawing them out to stop the pain, hoping they'd grow back. Body barely functioning, I pulled myself forward, falling onto my hands and knees before I could make it fully upright. Rocks and dirt clung to my naked bleeding form. My fingers clawed at the ground and I gritted my teeth through the pain. Using the short wall, I pulled myself up, finally standing, all bright unsteadily. Light from the morning sun limed my body in a red gold corner. My gaze wandered around the area, assessing my situation. I needed to get moving. I had an angel to find. Chapter 1. Ivy. I dropped the corpse into the middle of the river. The flack sound his incinerated body made after falling 100 feet through the air did nothing to ease my frustrations. 18 months. 18 goddamn months I'd been searching for Emma, my wife, the missing half of my soul. A gentle shifting of my wings ceased my hovering, and I descended to land softly on the roof of the old riverside warehouse. With a flat with a flex of my shoulders, I pulled my wings into my back, then dusted my hands along my denim covered thighs to wipe away the flakes of his charred, blackened skin. I watched as his remains were pulled rapidly downstream. The dead bastard had been my last hope, but he'd been a scammer, one of many. Like the others, he looked at me, saw a beautiful young woman, and assumed I'd be an easy mark. They'd each claim to know where Emma was, saying and doing whatever they thought was necessary to claim the reward money I'd offered. There was no money, of course, but they didn't know that. I gave one last look at the river and sighed, pushing my frustration out with the breath. Lightning burst across the sky, thunder sounding right behind it. I cocked an eyebrow. There was a storm moving across the continent, and it would be here sooner than I had expected. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Signally, an incoming text. Grateful for the distraction, I pulled it out and checked the display. I think we found something. Can you come to my office tomorrow? Andromeda Sterling, my unwitting captor for 20 years. In the event known as the breaking, reality fractured, forcing countless worlds to collide. The multiverse became a true universe. In the fact that fracture, I'd been ripped apart from my wife and pulled across worlds, slamming into the body of a young girl who didn't even know she'd been orphaned yet. I stayed there, trapped in a living host, possessing it, but never actually able to use the body. As far as first possession experiences went, it sucked. I never needed a host body, while every other demon eventually had to find a host body to contain their energy. I opted to just never die. And as for the poor girl I inhabited for long for so long, well, she used my powers in frightening effective ways. She grew up to be an interrogator for a mercenary crew. She was known as the Inquisitor. Somehow, my lightning twisted inside of her, mutating and giving her the ability to shut down the healing powers of other supernatural creatures. The monsters that now inhabited this world could be incredibly hard to kill, and most had never known true pain before. But when a human woman, barely more than 5 feet tall, suddenly makes you feel like dying is a real possibility, you're willing to talk. Anything to make that pain stop. Andromeda had used that power well right up until my escape. She'd been on a mission to stop the head of a human trafficking ring, a demon named Azrael. Unfortunately, that demon just happened to be my father. Not that familiar relations meant anything, but the man still had some crazy desire to rule the world with me. He sensed me and captured Andromeda, torturing her for weeks, trying to force me out. Every time, I pulled right back inside. Whatever force had pulled me into Andromeda wouldn't let me out. Azrael had commissioned an amulet spelled with heavy magics that would keep me from re inhabiting my host once I escaped. It worked, but dear old dad didn't like the outcome. After blowing through his host body with my lightning, I left him at the bottom of a lake. He was strong enough that his energy might have made it back to whatever hell realm he came from instead of dispersing back into the universe. Either that, or he was currently inhabiting a fish. Andromeda had ultimately fared better than I thought. I'd left her in the water, barely alive and not even conscious. I admit I hadn't even given her a thought once I got free of her. She'd been pulled out in a daring water rescue by Victor Greaves. Her boyfriend was the right term. Such a puerile term didn't encompass what they were. I honestly didn't know what to call the billionaire demon who seemed absolutely obsessed with Andromeda, but in a sophisticated touch her and die kind of way. Victor was insufferable, but it was cute. I had a soft spot for my former host, and if he was taking care of her, then I was happy. Typing out a quick reply to Andromeda, I confirmed that I'd be there. Checking the time, I smiled to myself. It was just before midnight, and the storm was still a ways away. Why wait? I flexed my shoulders, and wings sprang again from my back. More storm cloud and smoke than traditional wings. They flowed behind me, wisp of black trailing in the breeze. I leapt from my perch atop the old warehouse and let the wind catch me. It would only take a few hours to fly to the castle Andromeda and Victor lived in. Regardless, it would be close to 3 before I reached their home. I was sure they would still be awake. Thank you for listening.